going on, guys? Gonna let our Telegram group know that we're just doing a short live stream here. Let's do this. It's our photo. USMLE live, 30 minutes only. Live Q&A. If you're coming in, drop your question in the box there and I'll see it and then I'll answer it first. Only gonna do half an hour. Live Q&A, 30 minutes only. Paste. There. I just let our Telegram group know. This time is literally like the least busy time. What's going on, Ishan? This is the least busy time to possibly do a live stream. So it's like 3 a.m. It's literally 3 a.m. on the East Coast in the US right now. I don't give a fuck. Like I could do it like 4 a.m. my time. We get like triple the people here, but I don't give a fuck. What's going on, Nico? What's happening, Ishan? What's going on with all the Hebrew? Sabi, how's it going? Abdullah, what's up? G, hey Mike, I'm really excited to see you online. Kogatam, what's going on? Ask your questions, guys. I'm only going to be here for half an hour. Kogatam, Livingstone, what's going on? 24, Rakesh, what's up? It's time to sleep. Good to see you again. It's time to sleep. I don't like your username. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to that. Just like, you know, something, we got to have something more energetic, right? Meher, what's going on? Hello, tomorrow. Good to see you again. Also, you the same. I don't like your username either. Like, use a name. Like, I don't understand people with like these like, well, pseudonyms like Ahmed, what's going on? Russian characters, Ukrainian characters, can't read that. What's going on? Taj, how to deal with long stems, but most of NBMEs have small stems. I've talked about, you can open a separate tab on the YouTube here, type in Mehlman long question stems, and I made like 7 clips talking about it. If you get a long stem, you're going to glance at the answer choices first. You want to see what type of question you have. Okay, is it diagnosis? Is it an organism? Like, what kind of question do you actually have? And then if there's lab values, you glance at those. I go backwards through long questions. That's what I do. Okay. Is there a sodium, potassium, pH bicarb for aldosterone? Is there Bu-endocrinine ratio? Right. So what do you have there? You can usually get the answer from looking at the last couple lines, maybe 25 to 33% of the time. And if you still can't get the answer after 5 to 7 seconds, you can go back and start from the beginning. Okay. I've made a lot of clips on this stuff. So open a separate tab and type in Mehlman long question stems. I've made like 7 clips talking about it. Mahmoud, what's going on, dude? From Egypt. A lot of Egyptian people like reach out to me about tutoring for my site, specifically from Egypt. I don't know what like the word of mouth is going on there. How old am I? I'm 37. Steven, what's going on? Rabadi, Sunshine, Leo, what's up? Hello, bro. I want to ask how similar is the real exam with NBMEs? I have an exam on the 26th of September. I have my NBME 65 to 67. Perfect. So I've talked about how the real exam and the NBMEs are exactly the same. Okay. So the questions are not similar. They're the same. So if you're scoring 65% is pass on step 1. So if you can score above 68, I like that as a buffer. That's more than solid. Okay. So I want to see 3 NBMEs, ideally 68% plus, and we have a nice buffer. 65 is you pass by 1 question. Okay. So, but I'll reiterate that the questions from the NBMEs and the real USMLE are exactly the same. They're not similar. They're the same, and they're repeated from the old forms to the online forms, and from the online forms onto the real deal, etc. Mohammed Fathi, what's going on? Hoseifa Zest, what's going on? Daniel, Gonkan, hey Mike, how do you stay consistent literally? Are you talking about me or are you talking about you? I mean, if we're talking about you, then you just have to decouple your motivation from your work ethic. That's pretty much what I could say. By the way, guys, give the live stream a like, okay? And it'll notify other people that we're here. Because I'm only here for like 25 more minutes. So you got to decouple your motivation from your work ethic, meaning you're not going to want to study. You're not going to want to do QBank questions on many days, but you have to understand that it's not about how you feel, and you just have to do the work regardless. The most successful people will do work regardless as to how they feel. Okay. So, like, if I'm putting out a YouTube clip daily, which, okay, I just restarted doing that. But as an example, do you think I want to do that every day? The answer is no. Okay. But you have to, on days where you don't want to do questions, you have to do questions. And it's not about how you feel. I think it's as I said, it's recognizing that success is about doing work regardless as to how you feel. Dr. Octopus, how different in difficulty between NBME questions really? I just said they're the same questions. You retracted your question. That's a little odd. Perry, hello, Dr. Mike. What's going on? Meher, you said do UWorld once in your videos. Was there a follow-up to that? I mean, yes, I've said do QBank once. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do more than once for QBank, okay? There's a time and place for doing incorrects. If you do, let's say, UWorld or AMBOSS once, and you get to the NBME exams for step 1, step 2, and your scores aren't where they need to be, remediation tactics can entail doing your incorrects or switching to the other QBank. So maybe I'll have a student do UWorld incorrects, or I'll have a student just switch to AMBOSS entirely, or vice versa. So, but the point is that I'll never have a student just front load incorrects or double pass. It'll never be a situation where you finish UWorld and then I say, no, we're not going to the NBMEs yet. You're going to do UWorld incorrects, then the NBMEs. I don't do that. I just go straight to NBMEs, and we only do incorrects or double pass if we need the remediation because your scores aren't there. It's time to sleep. Ask best Anki deck or decks for step 2 CK. I don't advocate for Anki in that regard. I'll be creating Anki decks for like the main subjects. I have Anki decks, of course, for biochem, pharm, and micro, but I've started making Anki decks for other subjects that are good because I'm making them, but they're boring. And so I'm not working on them every day. Like, it's the last fucking thing I want to do. The last thing I want to do. And it requires like caffeine to like sit there and be like doing what I don't want to do. Igor asks, hey Mike, doing CSM? You mean CMS? Thanks for guidance. Okay, the chat moved to me. Someone donated $5. Igor. Okay, I'm gonna read your question because you donated. Thanks for all your guidance. Waiting you in MS for perfect steak. Even your advices on work ethics help. Well, thanks for the donation, dude. Let's scroll back up. Okay. Hey, Dr. Bella. Hey, Dr. Mike, I've examined 9 days and scored really bad and it made me 31 today. Hardly passed it. Should I go for it? I'd have to see what your scores are. I'd want to know your other NBMEs, the dates you took them. I'd want to know the dates you took the NBMEs and what you got on them. If you took a fail on an NBME like recently, I would just say no. Like, I am very conservative as far as like, I don't like to YOLO and have people like go high risk. Is there a time and place? Fine. If your school's going to kick you out if you don't sit in 2 weeks or you're forced to, but like, I would rather, if you got, let's say, a fail 3 days ago on like a different NBME or something, or you failed NBME 31, your exam's in 9 days, I would just say, no, I don't sign off on it. I'm going to have you do QBank for another month, and you're pissed off because you don't want to do QBank for another month. And I'm like, all right, well, you can YOLO and maybe not pass, but I didn't sign off on it. I'd rather have you be pissed off that you're inconvenienced and you have to do another month of QBank than to take a fail on the real licensing exam. The Hebrew characters. Should I do AMBOSS plus UWorld if I have 7 months till step 1? Yes, you can. But bear in mind, you could do one QBank only, then take NBMEs. You're passing. And you could just sit through the NBMEs and take the real deal without even needing to go through second QBank. But if it's because you're in second year right now, the start of second year, and you don't have this step until next summer, if that's the situation, then you could just do 2 qbanks, yes, and that would also prepare you for step 2. Amar Gaudier, I have a question. If I failed step 1, can I still match? What should I do to overcome? Yeah, you can still match. You just can't have entitlement and delusion. That's what it comes down to, okay? Like, no, you will not match at certain locations in certain specialties, but of course you can match. I mean, there's people who match all the time who have fails on the step, okay? Some programs don't care. But you can, as I said, you can't be entitled and you can't be delusional. You're not going to match into like radiology at a top 10 school. You know, you can do like family medicine, internal medicine, like, you know, less competitive specialties, and you go to locations that aren't as competitive. I mean, and you're going to apply to preliminary years and preliminary years, okay, and transitional years, the 1-year programs as well. Tina, good to see you. Would doing FA after high yield PDFs for systems be necessary? No. You're just going to do the PDFs. I don't even think you can get through all my PDFs. Like, what fraction of students are actually able to get through all my PDFs? Very, very, very like minimal percentage. Okay, so until you can like absorb all my PDFs, and even if you did, let's say hypothetically, you're like, no, I read everything, read them again. Okay, so hashtag viral, thanks, Kevin G. Well, it's called like 3 weeks of growing a beard. 24 Rakesh. No, I don't recommend that. Kevin G, you're going too much now. Then we have crazy Arabic writing. But I got like all sorts of crazy questions last year. Like, I'm used to getting negative comments all the time. That's like a normal thing. If you can't handle negative comments and negative questions, then you can't be a YouTuber. Like, people will stop posting videos, like, if they can't handle that stuff. So you develop a backbone, and you just realize like people are going to ask you imposing things or like personal things, or they'll criticize your appearance or whatever. I mean, like, that's like a very normal, you got to develop a backbone of that stuff. You have to develop a backbone of people being able to, for people criticizing you and not being able to respond. That's what it is, because you can't respond. Crazy Arabic writing asks, my exam next Thursday, I'm going to be 21. I was 80%. Dude, that's high. 65 to pass. 80% is like ultra high. That's troll level score. VJ, Mike, last months of step 1, do I need to do only NVMe Know Your World? That is correct. So the final month, you're going to do NVMEs 20 through 31, 20 to 24, free 120, 25 through 31, in that order, ideally. And you can spend 2 days per NVMe exam. That could take you a whole month. So you do like an NVMe on one day, it takes you 4 hours, you review it. Maybe you only finish 2 blocks of review that day. Then the second day you finish the review. So that's how you can spend your final month, 20 to 31. And if you fail any NVMEs, you're going back to qbank for an entire month. I don't want you burning through NVMEs, getting like 55%. I said 65 is pass. I don't want you taking like repetitive fails on the NVMEs in the final month and just wasting them. Like, you need to use qbank to get you into the 60s on the NVMEs, and then you use the NVMEs. Hello tomorrow, sitting for step 2 tomorrow. NVMe scores, all 250s, 260s. What score do you expect me to get? I expect you to get the average. I'd want to know the dates of those scores, first of all. Okay, were they recent or were they like spread out? So, but you're likely going to get the average of your step scores. And one thing I can comment on is that the lowest score you got on an NVMe is possible. So don't get upset if it happens. I'm not being negative. I'm not deterring you. It's something like that. I'm just saying the happiness level you're going to have when you get your final score is going to be relative to what your expectations were. And I'm articulating this because I've had students before take like NVMEs. They get like a 259. They get like a bunch of 260s. They get like a couple in the 270s. It's like, holy shit, 270s. And then their real score is a 259 and they're like devastated. Okay. And it's like, well, the 259 was one of your NVMEs. It's possible. It's your score range. So I'm saying like it's likely going to be the average of your NVMEs there in the 250s. I'd say like 254, 253, 254. And then you got to know that a 249 is possible. And if you get like a 265, it's like great, but that's less typical. Nico, past step 1 in July, what is the most efficient way to study for 2CK over the next following months? I'd want to know if you're on rotations or if you are post-grad. I'm assuming if you took it in July, maybe you're on rotations, but you said the following months. I've made clips on 2CK prep. If you're post-grad and you just take it you study for 3 to 4 months versus you're on rotations, literally open a tab, type in 2CK Mehlman 2024, summer onward. I made a clip on that like 2 weeks ago. And I discuss everything for 2CK prep, okay? But you're going to do UWorld or AMBOSS. You're going to do the CMS forms twice, the NBME 50 questions, subject-specific forms. You're going to do my PDFs for all the subjects, and you're going to do my YouTube MCQ playlist. It's a lot of work, but we're talking you want a big score. That's what you got to do. Farah, I followed you for my step 1, find your guidance most useful. Thank you, Farah. Kevin G, your derm questions on YouTube are much harder than UWorld questions. My questions are not hard. My questions are straight to the point. You know, those of you who actually like do my YouTube questions, you notice they're very short. That's on purpose because I don't want you sifting through 15 lines of garbage. Like 15 lines of garbage to get a point. It's like, no, I cut to the chase. So I'd say my questions are easier, truthfully. Kevin G, someone donated. Let's see. Igor, thanks again for another $5. I'll read your question. You're an IMG. If I have CK on 30th September, will it be too late to match? No. People are like freaking out that like you have to have your application in first day that they open. No, not at all. Like I don't know the exact dates. I'm not like I'm not like a coordinator of like the match, but like what I can tell you is like some programs make it out to be as though you have to like have your application submitted like the moment that submissions open, and like that's not how it works. Like you can submit later. When someone donates, it moves the chat on me, so I'm like scrolling up right now, back to where I was. Okay, Ahmed, you have 1 year for step 1. Should you pushing yourself 4 months UWorld and so on, or is that the best way to go? Make your old 10-month plan. If your step 1 is in a year, bro, I would do like at least AMBOSS and UWorld. I would do both those qbanks alongside your coursework. Yes, you're an example of like when I would do 2 qbanks because you're so far out from the USMLE. Miguel Gomez, are you making Anki decks for step? I mean, I said I'm working on some Anki decks haphazardly, like for the subject domains, like cardio, pulm, renal, etc. They're just so boring to do that I'm not consistent with that stuff right now. I just don't want to deal with it, but it'll get done at some point. It was the same thing with writing the PDFs. Like, I mean, the PDFs were like absurdly boring to write, but I wrote them. So I'll get into it at some point. G, can you tell me best of the best high scoring PDFs for your step 1 and your priority you're asking? I've said you're going to do high yield endocrine, high yield pathology, and high yield arrows in that order. Those 3 are your pass level PDFs. Okay, I've talked about this a lot, that there's some of you who obsess over like neuroanatomy, biochemistry, immunology, and it's laughable. It's like a parody to me at this point because people focus on those PDFs because I've created the best resources for those subjects. They're difficult subjects and other resources are lacking in them. So you're like, you know, I need to know those topics, but they're not the pass level subjects. You can get all the neuroanatomy wrong on an NBME, weird enzyme biochemistry wrong, weird pharmacokinetics nonsense wrong, and get like a score in the 70s, and that's like high. So what's going to get you to fail is if you're missing questions on like hormones, like PTH, vitamin D, aldosterone high, low, ADH high, low, bicarb CO2 questions, acid base. If you're missing that stuff, that's how you fail. If I have a new student come to me and they're like, I took a CBSE comp or I took an NBME and I got like a 56%. Do you want to see my score breakdown? I'm like, no. And they're like, why don't you want to see my score breakdown? I'm like, I don't need to see it because I know what questions you're getting wrong based on the percentage that you're getting correct. I mean, what's going to close the gap between a 56 and a 65, which is pass, as I said, is all the hormone, all the endocrine stuff, basic path, genes, and basic diagnoses. Take any diagnosis, hereditary spherocytosis, Duchenne, cystic fibrosis, von Hippel-Lindau, take any disease and be able to tell me stuff about it, answer questions on it. I mean, that's what matters. So basic pathophys diagnoses and endocrine. Maria Gonzalez, what should I do the month before step 1? I said all the NBMEs, so 20 through 31 you're going to do. Crazy Arabic writing asks, NBME 3170, NBME 3066 a month ago. Those are great scores. 66, I mean, borderline, but 70 is great. Bella, it's not like I didn't know the answers. I was just too anxious. Previously, I was scoring between 70 and 73. UWorld self-assessment, 73. Okay. Danielle Setuda. Mike, regarding the CMS forms for step 2, would you recommend to review the wrong ones in the style we did for step 1 NBMEs? Or just do them and continue on and think for everything? I recommend just doing them and you don't have to make Anki for stuff. I've made prior clips talking about doing Anki, for like making your own Anki for screenshots of the incorrects from NBMEs for step 1. I don't think you have to do that per se. There's a time and place. It's not cookie cutter for every student, okay? If I have students who are like really struggling, sometimes I can implement a tactic where they screenshot all their incorrects from the NBMEs and they stack a review. It's not necessary, okay? For CMS, I just want you doing the forms. Just do them. Learn from them the best you can, and you don't have to make Anki or anything like that. You're going to do CMS twice. And I have to reiterate that because like I get a lot of students who are going to sit 2CK and like they don't know the CMS questions well, and they're like very soon from their step 2. And I've told them like a long time ago, I'm like, you got to do the CMS forms twice. And then like they like don't do the questions. They don't know them well enough. Because I could send you like surgery form 4, I could send you internal medicine form 3 questions, and like they're struggling. I'm like, well, that's interesting. It's peculiar that you're struggling with these CMS questions I'm sending you when you should have already done these forms twice. So that indicates to me that like the students aren't doing them twice, or they just don't learn from them well enough. Igor, what topics on CK aren't worth my time? I mean, that's a step 1 question, not a step 2 question, because CK is numerical. So you got to know everything for step 2. For step 1, as I already said, like you don't need to obsess over like weird neuroanatomy, weird enzymes, weird pharmacokinetics, stuff like that. Okay, like you don't need to worry about that stuff. Perry from Nigeria. That's cool. Abu Bakar, thanks. Elena Spo. RX or Amboss before UWorld for step 1? I would do Amboss before UWorld. Rabadi Lillian. Is it better that the USMLE step 1 became pass-fail, or is it problematic? Because that's a long discussion, okay? It goes both ways. For people who could barely pass, I think it's a positive because it masks a low numerical score. For people who are high test takers, strong test takers, who did like mediocre in school, it was a disadvantage that it went to pass-fail. Okay, so it used to be a way to compensate for like mediocre school grades. There was no this isn't like a cliche. Like there was no shortage of people who would get like average grades in their med school and then get like really high step 1 scores, and like they were the ones who would match. And it was like that was a good culture at the time. And now it's like it brought power. Making step 1 pass fail brought power back to the med schools, because now you're forced to, you know, get good preclinical grades. So it was a selfish move by admin to bring power back to med schools, because you had butthurt admin who were upset that people weren't going to their nonsense lectures anymore, that they were just staying at home doing UWorld. And they were upset about that. They're like, nobody comes to my lectures anymore. I feel less important. So in order to bring power back to the med schools, they're like, well, we're going to make the step 1 pass fail. Now people have to come to our bullshit lectures and focus on our bullshit slides. And now we can feel better about ourselves. So it was a selfish move. And as a result, you make an entire generation of future doctors less competent because they don't know the basic sciences based on selfish insecurity. Case closed. Usef Mo, hey Mike, I took the real deal and felt like I mostly made educated guesses. I'm going to do 5 more minutes, do 30 minutes here. Usef, hey Mike, I took the real deal and felt like I mostly made educated guesses despite my NDMEs being 85% plus. How much of a troll is that? That's so high, dude. That's fine. Educated guesses that's fine, dude. As long as you get the scores, that's what matters. Igor again. I start doing CMS CK and I feel much more confident. The only problem, I run out of NBMEs. KJ, did you do residency? Why not? Well, I can answer questions about me, right? I can talk about me. It's fun to talk about ourselves, but I was doing this for you guys, right? No, I didn't do that because I didn't have an interest in that. But I took the USMLEs, of course, but I do USMLE full time. It's what I do. No interest. But I'd probably say family medicine. Like if I were to go and do like, at the time, I thought about family medicine in like Alaska or Hawaii. That was like a cool idea to me. And then I realized it was just travel I was interested in, not actual family med. As I said, I can talk about me, but that's not what you guys want to hear right now. You want me to answer USMLE questions. So Mahmoud, your PDFs are frequently shared and become popular in the Egyptian group. That's why. Okay. Thanks, Mohammed. Wakas. Mohammed Hassan, would you recommend radiology resources to learn for rotations? No. I mean, just what shows up in NVMe content, qbank, just do the stuff I've talked about. You don't need to specifically open a radiology text and be an expert on this stuff. And by the way, a lot of the radiology picks that show up on NVMe questions, often they don't rely on you being able to interpret the radiology to answer the question. So student will like post like a step 1 question with some weird fucking CT scan. And it's not like I'm looking at the CT scan being like, oh, obviously, like that's not even how the question's answered. You read the stem and you're like, well, clearly this is what they're getting at just based on the info. It's like, I would say it's under like 15% of questions that like you have to know the radiology or you're fucked. Okay. And you know, it is what it is. Ahmed, I answered your question. You're 1 year out. Yes, you can do multiple qbanks. Mohammed Hassan, people are saying the real deal is more like UWorld. No, it's not. The real deal will look like UWorld. The colors, calculator, lab values, but the questions are the NBME questions. The real USMLE, when you walk in there, is going to be NBME questions superimposed into a UWorld interface. That's what the real USMLE is. So psychologically, because it looks like UWorld, some people will say it's more like UWorld, but the questions themselves are the NBME questions. That's objective. That's not my opinion. Rutwick Parmer, you're studying for CK. When's the ideal time to go through your PDFs while you're doing qbank? That's the ideal time. Don't save the PDFs for late. People who talk about this notion of them artificially inflating your scores, nonsense. Okay, you want to do them early. And then you're asking about before, after the CMS forms. You're going to do the PDFs while you're going through qbank. And then if you don't finish them in time, you can do them alongside the CMS forms. But the point is to not save the NBMEs for while you're on the NBME exams in the last part of your prep. Mohammed, there's a lot of fucking Mohammeds in this chat. Mohammed, Mahmoods, like a lot of you guys here. So what's your recommendation for microbiology and immunology? I've got free modules on my website for microbiology. I also have paid Anki cards for micro, but there's free modules, okay, on my website for micro. Immunology, you can do my high-yield immuno PDF. And then you can do my playlists on the YouTube. So open a separate tab, go to my YouTube, go to the playlists, and you'll see micro playlist, immunology playlist there. You can do those questions. Abdul Sattar, NBME 70%. Exam September 19th. Should I postpone? No, those are good scores. 70 is good. Amir Shohel. I want to start UWorld first, and I plan to finish UWorld twice, then go for oh man, that's such a cuck question. Is it the right decision? No, it's like laughable, bro. I don't know what guidance you've been receiving. It's like terrible. UWorld twice and then first aid. What is this, like 2006? Like what? I mean, what advice did you receive, bro? So you're going to do UWorld once, and the FA era is over. It's nothing like, it's not to denigrate FA. It's nothing pejorative. It's just, You know, it's not a numerical step 1 anymore. So FA is rendered superfluous. So you're going to do my PDFs. That's the right decision. UWorld and my PDFs concurrently. And then after that, you go to the NBME content. Ramen, Aurora. I'm going to do like last question because I said 30 minutes. Doing MPH before applying to residency can help in getting, you're asking if doing an MPH, Master of Public Health, before applying to residency can help in getting residency? The answer is fuck no. 2024, I mean, like very, very like, that's going to be like a very subjective niche, maybe at very certain places, you know, particular places. A lot of those credentials are garbage. Like what matters is the CK score. I've said this before. They just look at numbers and class rank. It's very, very like superficial. Okay. Like if you're going to select a player for like the NFL or for the NBA, like you look at height and weight. And then, so they're going to look at your CK score and they're going to look at your class rank. Everything else, they don't give a fuck. Everything else, it's like, okay, how fast can they sprint in fucking like, you know, for 40 meters or something? It's like all that stuff is kind of like it comes after. So your little nonsense, like wimpy MPH, nobody gives a fuck about. Okay. It's like, you know, you got to get a CK score. You can go to Africa for a year and like do research. And if your CK score is lower than somebody who just sat in their like parents' basement, like they'll accept the person who sat in their parents' basement because they had a higher CK score. It's the game you got to play. That's what it is. All right. So I was going to do a half an hour. I'll answer one more question. Let me scroll down, scroll toward the bottom. HY asks, what about biostats? I'm really struggling. Yeah, I mean, I have a high yield biostats PDF. Like you should know basic biostats. You can't have an Achilles. Like you should know like sensitivity, specificity, PPV, NPV. You gotta know basic biostats. But for step 1, don't worry about like obscure p-value stuff. Like don't worry, okay? It's for CK. If you're shooting for a big score, you gotta like just do lots and lots and lots of questions. That's the key with biostats. It's very longitudinal. You can't go from knowing 0 biostats to like cramming biostats in 2 days and like knowing it well. Biostats, unfortunately, is very longitudinal, where you have to do many questions over many, many months for the concepts to build up. It's conceptual, okay? In addition to memorizing formulae, the comfort is conceptual and requires longitudinal study. So qbank, the NBMEs, my PDF, just doing lots and lots and lots of questions over time, unfortunately, is the way you got to like nail out biostats. All right, guys. I said I was going to do a half an hour.